If you ask my family when the arrangement started, they'd probably say it began out of love. That's true, technically. But looking back now, I think it really began out of embarrassment. My sister and her husband were close to losing their house after his business collapsed during a bad stretch of contracts and debt. Nothing dramatic, no gambling, no secret addiction, just a slow financial slide that eventually reached the mortgage. I stepped in temporarily. That word carried us for almost 2 years. At first, they treated the help carefully. My sister updated me constantly. Her husband thanked me too often in that overly serious tone people use when they still feel ashamed to need something. Then gradually, the shame faded before the dependence did. The payments became routine, so did the assumptions. At family gatherings, people joked about me working too much, not traveling, not dating seriously. My sister's husband once laughed and said, "Well, somebody has to keep the banks alive." Everyone smiled politely. Even me. The strange thing about long-term helping is that eventually you stop looking generous and start looking structurally available. I noticed it happening but kept going anyway. Partly because stopping felt cruel. Partly because I had quietly built my identity around being reliable. Then came the dinner. Nothing important about the night itself. Pasta, wine. Too many relatives squeezed into one dining room. The kind of evening where conversations separate into clusters naturally. At one point, I walked toward the kitchen looking for more ice. That's when I heard them. Not a secret conversation exactly, just careless. Her husband was laughing softly. "I'm telling you, he'd probably pay another 5 years if we acted stressed enough." Someone chuckled, then him again. "He needs to feel needed. That's the whole thing." I stood still before turning the corner. My sister didn't defend me. That part matters. She stayed quiet for a moment, then said lightly, "Honestly, if he had a family of his own, he probably wouldn't be this involved." More laughter, not vicious laughter. Worse, comfortable laughter. I remember staring at the freezer door without opening it. My body suddenly felt disconnected from the room, like I'd arrived too early to a truth everyone else already understood. I walked back carrying empty hands because I forgot the ice entirely. Nobody noticed. Dinner continued normally. I even helped clear plates afterward. That restraint surprised me later. I always assumed betrayal would feel explosive. But sometimes it arrives cold and organized, settling into place quietly while everyone keeps eating. 3 days later, I sent my sister a short message. "I won't be continuing the mortgage payments after this month. You'll need to make other arrangements moving forward. No accusations." No mention of the kitchen conversation. Her call came within minutes. At first, she sounded confused, then offended. "So you're just abandoning us?" I almost asked whether she heard herself. Instead, I said, "I think the arrangement lasted longer than it should have." Over the next week, relatives started contacting me indirectly. You know they're under pressure. Families help each other. Cutting them off suddenly feels harsh. Interesting word, suddenly, as though 2 years of support had somehow become invisible compared to one moment of refusal. Then, about 2 weeks later, reality arrived publicly. Missed payments triggered formal intervention from the bank. Foreclosure prevention representatives scheduled meetings. Paperwork started moving fast. The whole family suddenly understood something they'd managed to avoid emotionally for a long time. My help had never been symbolic. It had been holding the structure up. I attended one meeting because my sister asked me to. Mostly I sat quietly while financial officers reviewed timelines, balances, repayment possibilities. At one point, her husband tried framing the situation differently. "We never depended entirely on him," he said carefully. The representative looked down at the payment history. Then back up. "According to these records," she said plainly, "the mortgage remained current primarily because of his transfers." Nobody spoke after that, not because I'd won anything, because facts sound different once strangers say them out loud. A month later, my sister came to see me alone. She looked exhausted in a way pride can't fully hide. "We got used to it," she admitted finally. I think after a while, pretending we didn't need the help felt easier than admitting how much we did. That was the closest thing to honesty either of us had managed in years. They eventually sold the house and moved somewhere smaller. We still speak now, birthdays, holidays, occasional calls, but something subtle never returned, not trust exactly. Perspective. Once you realize people have transformed your kindness into part of their normal environment, every future act of generosity starts feeling heavier than it used to.